Hi, Professor Pittman here. I got the memo that my videos are a little bit lengthy. I can agree with that, so I'm going to try to shorten them up. So let's dive in. My sleeves are rolled up now. Now, team, again, this is all just what I think. So, all right, here we go. Key number one, strategic alliance. You know, one strategy common to all leaders is that they have a ability or build the ability to form what's called strategic alliances. That's where you combine your resources with another person or group of resources that they have. You know, so there is to say that by doing that, you can create strength in numbers. In other words, learn to work together. You know, here's a big example that pops into my mind. In my mind, Donald Trump. You know, I'm assuming now here, but however, I bet Donald Trump, I bet it's been many, many, many years since he's driven a nail into a 2x4. And perhaps even at one time, maybe he even pushed a mop, maybe when he was just starting out and he's a teenager. But the truth is, he's masterful at bringing people together to get stuff done. So strategic alliances, well, that's a shortcut. If there's actually a shortcut to success, that would be it. You know, in my profession, I have to do this too. Case in point, about 22 years ago, I formed a strategic alliance with the Boys and Girls Club, where a couple nights a week I taught martial arts there, and I met Chris Sadler. Well, here we are 22 years later, and Chris Sadler just got his black belt this week. So that's an example of strategic alliance. Or how about this? As a professional, you know, I have to do this with parents, I have to do this with students, I have to do this with instructors, I have to do this with my wife. You know, as a leader, I have to be mindful of how I personally can co-create alliances with someone of influence. You know, for example, if you're the parent and you bring your child in, well, you bring the child, I bring the plan. So I have to build with that someone who's willing to do that because of their confidence that they have in themselves, and also the confidence they have in me and my staff and my wife and our program and all the students in the academy. In other words, we bring that skill set, that resource, we bring that to their fold. So strategic alliances is really the key to long-term success, and as a leader, you got to be thinking long-term. And the reason why is that in my mind, nobody's going to get there on their own. Nobody. You know, there is no such thing as a lone ranger. I'm just a big believer. It takes a team to achieve a dream, and someone's got to start the team, and someone's got to start the dream. So that could be you and your spouse. It could be you and your parents. It could be you and a friend. It could be you and a teacher. It could be you and your ex-boss, you and your new boss. It could be you and a group that you can leverage. I just know, again, there's no lone rangers, and I'm just a big believer that it takes a team. So the truth is, a common core consideration that all leaders have is they're able to ask themselves the big question, and that is, who can I align with? Who can I combine my resources with to develop the strength necessary to accomplish an ambitious vision or goal? Again, you got to take the first step to be a seeker and a seeker of alliances and be able to communicate that. Or how about this? If you own a business, you know, you and your employees, well, you're a great example of strategic alliances. If you've got employees, how can I put this? What you have is you have created an alliance with a person who has a personality type, and they seem to demonstrate an enthusiasm for doing a particular line of work in your business. You know, in my mind, I think that people don't realize that when you do in fact hire someone, you're not hiring a person, you are creating an alliance with a personality type and what they bring, what resources they bring to the table, and then you, again, as a leader, have to train with them and speak with them and co-create with them in such a way to create win-wins. So I want you to think about that, and the leader has to take a personal responsibility to mindfully do that. You know, as a matter of fact, one of the things I had to say to a parent that is an example of this not too long ago, I just had a parent come to me. He had 2 kids in our program. They've been training with us for about 2.5 years. And he came to me and he said, listen, my kids want to quit. And he started saying things like, well, they just lost their passion. They don't want to do it anymore. So I had to say, well, why don't you and I decide right now that you and I are going to form an alliance to help your children succeed in what it is that they started to become black belts. So let's decide before we have a sit down and a conversation that you're at least open to the idea to allow me to work for you to help your children. So let's create an alliance. And then I added, because your children are not going to get their black belts on their own. You know, they're not going to get their black belts with my help. They're going to get their black belts with our help, the leaders, the 2 men that are going to sit down at this table and have to ask and come up with some important answers to some important questions. So my first question is, are you at least open to the idea of creating a strong alliance with myself, my wife, and our instructors and the rest of the students in our academy to help your children to develop the skill set necessary to not give in to negative peer pressure and all these enormous and tragic distractions that young kids are exposed to nowadays? And after further consideration, he said, yes, sir, I do agree with that. End of the story is, about 15 minutes later, we hugged it out. So the truth is, when you talk in these terms responsibly, like an adult, where you're trying to create alliances, that's what creates strength. So there you have it. Key number 1, strategic alliances. Listen, if you'd like to add to that, I'd love to talk more about it. Just find me at the Academy on the mat somewhere. Again, it's always my pleasure working with you. Thank you very much. I look forward to working with you next time. In the meantime, keep the faith, keep working, and God bless.